Okay. Good morning. A quorum being present, I call this morning's meeting of the Committee on Small Business to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. Welcome to our first markup of the second session of the 116th Congress. Today, we will be considering 4 bipartisan bills. 2 of them to modernize the microloan program, and another will give small businesses the tools they need to enter and thrive in the global marketplace. The last bill will ensure that 1,700 small businesses that employ 18,000 people in the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands will have access to valuable SBA programs and resources. Before we get down to business, I would like to take a moment to thank the ranking member and his staff and all the members of the Small Business Committee for their tireless bipartisan work on behalf of small businesses. Over the course of the past year, our committee has held a number of hearings to review programs at SBA. We have heard from Administrator Carranza and her team of associate administrators, Inspector General Ware, and small businesses throughout the country to determine what is working well, and what can be improved at SBA. The 4 bills that we're considering today are a product of that hard work. They will make much-needed improvements to SBA programs to make it easier for entrepreneurs to launch and grow their small businesses. With that, let's turn to the bills under consideration. H.R. 6079, the Microloan Improvement Act of 2020, introduced by Mr. Kim and co-sponsored by Mr. Burchett. H.R. 6078, the Microloan Transparency and Accountability Act of 2020, introduced by Mr. Burchett and co-sponsored by Mr. Kim. H.R. 6133, the State Trade Expansion Program Improvement Act of 2020, introduced by Ms. Finkenauer and co-sponsored by Mr. Spano. H.R. 6021, the Northern Mariana Islands Small Business Development Act, introduced by Mr. Sablan of the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, and co-sponsored by Ms. Radewagen of American Samoa. All of today's bills are a result of the committee's commitment to bipartisanship, and I urge members to support them. I would now like to recognize our ranking member, Mr. Chabot, for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and for holding today's meeting. Again, I appreciate your willingness to work with me and with all the members on our side, as well as our staff, in such a bipartisan manner. All four of these bills are led by members of both parties, which has become standard practice in our committee, and we thank you for that. I'll be brief in my opening, as we will discuss each bill as it's called. Before we begin, I want to say that the work here in our committee continues to be of critical importance. Just yesterday, for example, we held an exceptional hearing where we discussed in depth the effect coronavirus is having on America's small businesses and could have in the immediate and midterm and long-term future. And as each of us know here in this committee, as the small business economy goes, so goes our national economy. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, small firms are suffering from significant supply chain disruptions, economic uncertainty, and a generalized sense of concern. Historically, such sentiments do not bode well for business, and especially small business. Without question, the health of our citizens is our #1 priority. But in this committee, our responsibility is to continue to seek out ways to help small firms and their employees navigate difficult times such as these. Today, we have the opportunity to advance 4 bills that strengthen several of the initiatives administered through the Small Business Act. I support each of these measures and thank each of our members, both Republican and Democratic alike, for their leadership and work on these bills. And I yield back.
Thank you very much. The gentleman yields back. Before we get into the individual bills, are there any members present who seek recognition for the purposes of making an opening statement? Our first bill today is H.R. 6079, the Microloan Improvement Act, introduced by Mr. Kim and co-sponsored by Mr. Burchett. The bill enhances the microloan program, which has been a lifeline of affordable capital for thousands of aspiring entrepreneurs each year, especially those from underserved communities. I would like to now recognize the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Kim, the sponsor of the bill, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Chairwoman. And thank you to my colleague from Tennessee, Mr. Burchett, for working across the aisle with me on this important legislation that will modernize SBA's microloan program. Many entrepreneurs, especially those from underserved communities, have great difficulty in securing much-needed capital for their businesses. For these individuals, traditional loans may be out of reach. The microloan program helps to alleviate this problem by extending business loans and technical support to entrepreneurs. Earlier this month, I chaired a hearing under the Subcommittee on Economic Growth, Tax, and Access to Capital, which examined the SBA's microloan program, where we heard testimony that reinforced the immense value of this program. The program has meaningfully improved the well-being of tens of thousands of businesses nationwide. In my district alone, 198 businesses received microloans in the total amount of almost $3.25 million in FY 2019. Without these microloans, many of these entrepreneurs would be unable to pay bills, would have to cut staff, or worse, shut their doors. However, the program in its present form is not without its faults. Many of the shortcomings of the program stems from the fact that it's long overdue for modernization. A common critique from participating lenders is that antiquated rules unnecessarily restrict their lending activity. To resolve this and others' concerns regarding the microloan program, Mr. Burchett and I introduced the Microloan Improvement Act. In short, this bill seeks to inject the program with much-needed flexibility that will ease access to capital for small business owners. This bill is an important step towards improving a program that has been critical to the success of small businesses. I thank this committee for its support of these efforts, and I look forward to a new chapter for the microloans program. I yield back.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. And I now like to recognize the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Burchett, the co-sponsor of the bill, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Which bill are we? We're on 60779.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you and the ranking member's leadership on this issue, and I was happy to work with Mr. Kim on the Microloan Improvement Act in order to help grow small businesses in our rural areas. And I ask for everyone's support, and I do want to thank our staffs for all the hard work they do. Both sides of the aisle, they seem to do all the work, and we get all the credit. So it would be nice to recognize them at this time, and I want to thank everybody for their support, and I yield the remainder of my hard-earned time back to you, Chair Lady.
Are there any? Thank you, the gentleman. The gentleman yields back. And now, are there any other member who wish to be recognized for a statement on H.R. 6079? Yes. I now recognize the ranking member.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be brief. To assist small dollar borrowers, the SBA offers the micro loan program where small businesses can receive loans of $50,000 or less from nonprofit intermediaries. Beyond financing, the microloan program also requires the nonprofit intermediaries to deliver technical assistance and counseling to small business borrowers. I want to thank Mr. Kim from New Jersey and Mr. Burchett from Tennessee for working in a bipartisan manner to introduce this bill. H.R. 6079 updates and modernizes outdated provisions in the microloan program, such as the 155th rule, while also adding key flexibility requirements. I fully support this common sense legislation and urge my colleagues to vote yes. And I yield back.
I now, the gentleman yields back, and I now recognize myself briefly. The microloan program provides funding to nonprofit intermediary lenders who in turn lend the funds to very small businesses and startups that are not ready for bank loans. These intermediaries help these small businesses succeed by providing training and technical assistance. Mr. Kim put forth a bill designed to make it easier for microloan intermediaries to provide affordable capital to existing microbusinesses and prospective entrepreneurs. Notably, the bill eliminates the onerous 155th rule. I want to thank Mr. Kim and Mr. Burchett for their leadership on this issue, and I encourage all my colleagues to vote yes. I would like to ask unanimous consent to submit letters of support from Friends of the Microloan Program, AEO, WIP, that are for our microloan bills today. So order. If there is no further discussion, the committee will come to consideration of H.R. 6079. The clerk will read out the report of the title of the bill.
H.R. 6079, the Microloan Improvement Act.
Without objection, H.R. 6079 is considered as read and open for amendment at any time. Are there any members who wish to offer an amendment? Seeing none, the question is now on H.R. 6079. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. H.R. 6079 is agreed to. The question now occurs on reporting H.R. 6079 to the House. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and H.R. 6079 is reported to the House. Without objection, the committee staff is authorized to correct punctuation, make other necessary technical corrections, and conforming changes. Members have 2 days to file additional supplemental dissenting and minority views. Our second bill today is H.R. 6078, the Microloan Transparency and Accountability Act, introduced by Mr. Burchett and co-sponsored by Mr. Kim. These bills offer incentives to microloan intermediaries to provide technical and management assistance to rural entrepreneurs. I would now like to recognize the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Burchett, for an opening statement on H.R. 6078.
Thank you, Chair Lady and Ranking Member, and I really do appreciate y'all's leadership and allow us to bring these important issues forward. And also thank again y'all's staffs and our staffs that really do a great work, and I'm very appreciative of it. We have to have them, of course, to get the results that I think we're getting for America's small business owners. And again, I want to thank my colleague, Mr. Kim, Maybe Kim Tim in 2020 could be the new slogan. I don't know. His work with me on this bill, the Microloan Transparency and Accountability Act. This legislation would incentivize microloan intermediaries to involve themselves in rural small business in the microloan program, while also improving the transparency on how taxpayer dollars are being spent at the SBA. Expanding the program is essential to small businesses in rural areas, but assuring accountability is also important, and I ask for everyone's support. And again, once again, I yield the remainder of my hard-earned time back to the committee, as long as we all endorse the Kim Tim 2020 plan. Thank you. Ladies.
The gentleman yields back. And now I'd like to recognize the co-sponsor of the bill, the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Kim.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just to make sure, so I'm at the top of the ticket?
Yes, sir, I was.
So
I was giving you I don't really want all that hassle.
Yeah, you just want to be able to be in the mix there.
Yeah, you know.
I endorse that.
Occasional picture in front of the Christmas tree at Christmas time.
Well, I think we can work
with our
that out.
wives.
We'll get our staffs, our hard-working staffs to work out the details.
2
But-
minutes remain.
Chair lady, you're out of order.
Well, look, it's been really great working with my colleague from Tennessee on these bills. Trying to find ways that we can move the needle forward, and this was a great example of, again, just finding something very tangible, something very specific that we can build off of. I really think that this is something that is very much needed. The studies are showing that the rural businesses, especially those in the developmental stages, are in particular need of this strategic support. So for this bill to be able to have the bonus 5% technical assistance grant to intermediaries servicing rural areas, these are the types of things that are just real tangible things that can move the needle forward. So it's been a pleasure working with Mr. Burchett on this, and we're going to do Kim Tim 2020. So I'll yield back. Thanks a lot.
The gentleman yields back. And now we recognize the ranking member, Mr. Shaban.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would suggest that the gentleman that have just been talking should include Mr. Hagedorn, and then we'd have the Kim, Tim, and Jim plan. So there you go. To enhance the dissemination of microloans in rural areas, and to, we got another one?
That was it. Boom.
Maybe I should just yield back my time now. Specifically, H.R. 6078 gives microloan intermediaries that service rural communities the opportunity to receive bonus technical assistance grants. Additionally, it requires the SBA to conduct an annual portfolio risk analysis to ensure the growing program is protecting and safeguarding taxpayer dollars. I'd like to thank Mr. Burchett and Mr. Kim for working together to protect American taxpayer dollars and to ensure our rural communities utilize this program to its fullest, and I yield back my time.
The gentleman yields back, and now I recognize myself briefly. Earlier this Congress, this committee held hearings on the program where, among other things, we heard about the challenges that intermediaries face in providing technical assistance, especially in rural areas. Intermediaries must drive 2 hours or more to a borrower's place of business to conduct training, which can be expensive. These costs all come out of the intermediary's bottom line, and the measure the gentleman from Tennessee has put forward to make lenders with at least 25% of their loans portfolio in rural area eligible for a bonus technical assistance grant is a reasonable one that I support and would encourage all of my colleagues to support. I thank both Mr. Burchett and Mr. Kim, and I urge a yes vote and I yield back the balance of my time. If there is no further discussion, the committee will move on to consideration of H.R. 6078. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 6078, the microloan transparency.
Without objection, H.R. 6078 is considered as read and open for an amendment at any time. Does anyone wish to offer an amendment? Seeing none, the question is now on H.R. 6078. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and H.R. 6078 is agreed to. The question now occurs on reporting H.R. 6078 to the House. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. H.R. 6078 is reported to the House. Without objection, the committee staff is authorized to correct punctuation, make other necessary technical corrections, and conforming changes. Members have 2 days to file additional supplemental, dissenting, and minority views. The third bill that we are considering today is H.R. 6133. The Step Improvement Act of 2020, introduced by Ms. Finkenauer and co-sponsored by Mr. Spano. The bill reauthorizes the state trade expansion program through fiscal year 2024 and makes important improvements to streamline the application process and provide states with increased flexibility to use funds. I would now like to recognize the gentlewoman from Iowa, Ms. Finkenauer, the sponsor of the bill, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the Congresswoman from Iowa's 1st Congressional District, I know firsthand that for our small businesses, the ability to access new markets and export goods promotes economic successes at home and in our communities. Given the importance of trade in my home state, especially for our farmers, and our small business owners, who our farmers are also small business owners and manufacturers, I have made it a priority to improve and strengthen the State Trade Expansion Program. The State Trade Expansion Program gives small businesses the tools they need to start exporting and expanding into new markets. Many small businesses operate with razor-thin margins and only have a few employees. They don't always have the resources to attend a new trade show, design an international marketing campaign, or navigate foreign countries' complex rules and regulations. That's where the State Trade Expansion Program comes in. It's important that we reauthorize this program before it expires at the end of September. At the same time, we also need to fix some of the program's administrative challenges, which we've heard about from folks in Iowa, from folks who've come to testify in front of our committee and other stakeholders. In the Rural Development, Ag Trade, and Entrepreneurship Subcommittee that I chair with Ranking Member Dr. Joyce, we held 2 hearings actually dedicated to better understanding and addressing the challenges that have come up with the State Trade Expansion Program. I also held a roundtable in my district to hear from the Iowa Economic Development Authority and small businesses that have used this program and used it successfully. What we heard was that the State Trade Expansion Program, so STEP, is a great resource for our states. But we also heard about a very confusing application process, really tight timelines, and poor communications from staff at the Small Business Administration. That's why today, taking all the feedback I've heard here in D.C. and especially back at home, I am proud to introduce the STEP Improvement Act of 2020. This bill will reauthorize the State Trade Expansion Program for 4 more years and make improvements like creating a standard timeline and time frame for applications, opening more channels for input and communication between the Small Business Administration and the states, and collecting better data on how the program helps our small businesses. I want to thank my colleague, Mr. Spano, who's introducing this legislation with me today. You know, this is a bipartisan issue, one that we've been happy to work on bipartisanly in Congress, you know, this last year, but for many years prior to this as well, when this program was originally created. And I'm glad we were able to work across the aisle again to get this done today. So I urge all members of this committee to support this bill. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you. The gentlelady yields back. Are there any other members who wish to be recognized for a statement on H.R. 6133? The ranking member is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to thank Ms. Finkenauer and Mr. Spano for their leadership on this legislation. H.R. 6133, the Step Improvement Act of 2020, will reauthorize the SBA's State Trade Expansion Program for the next 4 fiscal years. The program facilitates small business participation in trade missions and shows, international marketing efforts, workshops, and other promotional activities. Since its establishment as a pilot initiative in 2010, STEP has been subject to numerous oversight reports issued by the GAO and the SBA's Office of Inspector General. This committee has carefully reviewed each report and collected feedback from stakeholders to determine the reforms included within the STEP reauthorization. State trade agencies and the state international development organizations have sent in letters of support for the bill. H.R. 6133 reinforces our commitment to seeing the SBA fulfill its goals relating to the STEP program and maximizes every dollar to help small businesses reach their potential in the international market. The bill provides greater flexibility to state trade agencies and enhances accountability at the SBA, a balance that will greatly improve program functions. Therefore, I would support this legislation, urge my colleagues to do so on both sides, and yield back my time.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. And now I recognize myself briefly. First, I would like to commend Representative Finkenauer for the work she did as the chair of the Rural Development, Agricultural, Trade, and Entrepreneurship Subcommittee, which held 2 substantive hearings on STEP. This bill is a product of those efforts and a tremendous amount of hard work. The State Trade Expansion Program helps small businesses navigate the complexities of an international marketplace and is an invaluable tool for small businesses looking to export. In fiscal year 2019, SBA supported $974 million in export sales from STEP. While impressive, more can be done to help small businesses access new markets and export goods abroad and in turn boost our local economies at home. This bill delivers on the committee's priority to expand exporting opportunities and ensure small businesses have the resources they need to compete abroad. I thank Ms. Finkenauer and Mr. Spano for their leadership, and I urge my colleagues to support this bill. I ask unanimous consent to enter a letter of support from the state international development organizations. Without objection. If there is no further discussion, the committee will move to consideration of H.R. 6133. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 6133, the STEP
Without
improvement.
objection, H.R. 6133 is considered as read and open for amendment at any point. Are there any members who wish to offer an amendment? Seeing none, the question is now on H.R. 6133. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. H.R. 6133 is agreed to. The question now occurs on reporting H.R. 6133 to the House. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and H.R. 6133 is reported to the House. Without objection, the committee staff is authorized to correct punctuation, make other necessary technical corrections, and conforming changes. Members have 2 days to file additional supplemental, dissenting, and minority views. The final bill before us today is H.R. 6021, the Northern Mariana Small Business Development Act, sponsored by Mr. Sablan of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands and co-sponsored by Ms. Radewagen of American Samoa. This bill takes the long overdue step of including the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands in the Small Business Center Development Center program and the FAST program. I would now like to recognize the bill's sponsor, the gentleman from the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, Mr. Sablan, for an opening statement.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman Velasquez, Ranking Member Chabot, and members of the committee for allowing me to sit in and explain my bill, H.R. 6021. Thank you for your leadership supporting small businesses and for including my bill, the Northern Mariana Islands Small Business Development Act, in today's markup. My bill ensures the 1,700 small businesses in the Marianas are eligible for grants through the Small Business Development-Led Center program and through FAST, the Federal and State Technology Program. The Marianas is the only place in the United States not included in these programs, which helps small businesses access the knowledge and capital needed to compete successfully for federal contracting opportunities. My bill would correct that by ensuring access on the same basis as their counterparts across the nation. Under H.R. 6021, the Marianas can apply to establish a lead SBDC, which would make available renewable funding to expand the reach and capacity of the existing SBDC service center on Saipan. With additional funding, small businesses on Saipan, Tinian, and Rota, the three mostly inhabited islands in the Marianas, will have better access to free or low-cost services such as incubator, workspace for entrepreneurs, business planning, operations, and other areas required for small businesses' growth and success. H.R. 6021 would also help our small businesses participate in federal research and development opportunities. My bill does this by including the Marianas in the SBA's FAST program, which funds outreach and assistance to small businesses interested in competing for the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Program. I want to also thank the committee for including a provision from my bill, H.R. 2603, into H.R. 6079, the Microloan Improvement Act, just voted for reporting to the House. My provision would provide Mariana small business owners access to the SBA's microloan program. SBA's microloans provide up to $50,000, typically not offered by banks for working capital or the acquisition of materials, supplies, or equipment. This program also provides marketing, management, and technical assistance to assist women, low-income, and veteran entrepreneurs in my district. So both H.R. 6021 and H.R. 6079 provides the small businesses in my district access to the full range of SBA resources needed to help our economy and help aspiring entrepreneurs make their dreams of small business ownership a reality. I'd like to thank the gentle lady from American Samoa for co-sponsoring my bill H.R. 61. Madam Chair, I yield back the remainder of my time. I urge members of the committee to support H.R. 61 and yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. I would now like to recognize the bill co-sponsored, the gentlewoman from American Samoa, Ms. Radewagen, for an opening statement.
Talofa and Afade. Today I'm proud to speak in support of H.R. 6021, the Northern Marianas Islands Small Business Development Act. This bill would allow the Northern Marianas Islands to establish a small business development center and gain access to other small business administration programs. As of right now, the Northern Marianas is the only territory that does not have an SBDC, and I urge all my colleagues to support this bill. I yield back, Madam Chair.
The gentle lady yields back. Are there any other members that wish, the ranking member is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be brief. I'd like to congratulate and thank Mr. Sablan and Ms. Rodwagon for their leadership on this legislation, and I want to thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Our last bill is one that extends a matter of simple fairness to American citizens. Currently, the Northern Marianas Islands, part of the United States since 1975, is the only U.S. jurisdiction not included for eligibility in certain SBA programs, such as very important SBDC Lead Center Grant Program. The Northern Marianas Islands, 55,000 inhabitants, deserve the same access to SBA programs as any other American citizens, and this bill ensures that they do have that. It's quite simple, bipartisan, and it's a just piece of legislation. I urge my colleagues to support it. Again, thank Mr. Sablan and Ms. Radewagen, and yield back.
The gentleman yields back, and now I recognize myself briefly. First, I would like to commend Mr. Sablan and Ms. Radewagen for their work on this bill. And Mr. Sablan, it is true, representation matters. Sorry that it took this long to bring fairness and access to all the programs that exist under the Small Business Administration. And that should be the rule in every federal agency, that we open all the programs to American citizens. So with that, if there is any further discussion, the committee will move on to consideration of H.R. 6021. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 6021, the Northern Mariana Islands.
Without objection, H.R. 6021 is considered as read and open for an amendment at any point. Does anyone wish to offer an amendment? Seeing none, the question is now on H.R. 6021. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and H.R. 6021 is agreed to. The question now occurs on reporting H.R. 6021 to the House. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. H.R. 6021 is reported to the House. Without objection, the committee staff is authorized to correct punctuation, make other necessary technical corrections, and conforming changes. Members have 2 days to file additional supplemental, dissenting, and minority views. I thank all the members for their participation today, and if there is no further business to come before the committee, we are adjourned. Thank you.